It was a cold, rainy Thursday night. I was at my usual spot, the 16th Street Diner, just enjoying a hot cup of joe when the barman came over to me. Didn't say nothing, just slipped me a piece of paper with a short message on it. This was peculiar. It never happened to me before. It said I was needed down at the station, and it was urgent. I downed the rest of my coffee and jumped in my car. When I arrived at the station, I saw a blonde woman in a huge fur coat, crying. She looked familiar, but I couldn't quite put my finger on a name.
Jackson, let's talk.
What we got, Chief?
Murder. High profile, too. She's the furball in the lobby. That's the wife.
Who's the victim?
The renowned actor Franklin Fitzpatric.
Holy smokes. Where's the murder scene?
His own home. Huge place up in Sunset Boulevard.
All right. What did the girl say she saw?
Nothing of significance. She just said she got home and he was on the floor, dead.
Well, I'll go over right there right now and see if I can find anything. We'll be in touch.
Good luck.
As I drove to the house, I had no idea what might await me there. When I arrived, the officers led me into the scene. Mr. Fitzpatrick was laying face up on the polished marble floor. I started looking for some viable evidence. I noticed that he had a puncture wound in his back. There were signs of fighting because some of his clothes were torn. I started to compile a list of suspects. I was looking for people to put on the list. I came up with the gardener, Mrs. Fitzpatrick, and the neighbor, another renowned actor, Henry Harrison. So I drove back down to the station to do some paperwork. I gave the officers the list and hoped I would be able to interrogate them soon. The next day, I arrived at the station around 9 a.m. First up was the gardener, Julian Smith.
Why the heck am I here?
Oh, you don't know? Your employer was murdered yesterday.
Well, I knew that, but I had nothing to do with it. He paid me very well. I had no reason to have any dispute with him.
Oh, really? He never did anything to make you upset? He was never critical of your work?
No, not at all. He was a good man. I looked up to him. It's horrible. He is dead now. I'm out of a job.
Okay, well, you are free to go for now, but we'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks, Detective.
Next up was Mrs. Fitzpatrick. So, Mrs. Fitzpatrick, tell me what you saw.
Well, I had just gotten home from the salon. I noticed that the door was left open, and that made me a little nervous. I walked in the house, and he was laying there on the floor. I rushed over to him to see if he was okay. I called his name and tried to wake him, but his body was cold. So I called the police.
Was there anyone else in your home at the time?
I don't know. I didn't leave him. I was traumatized.
Can you think of anyone who had anything against him?
Well, he worked with a lot of other actors. It is a competitive profession.
I see. Okay, well, thanks for your willingness to talk about this. I am very sorry about your loss.
I just hope you find the one who did it. I really don't know what I'm going to do now that he is gone. This just isn't fair.
Next up was the neighbor, Henry Harrison, a fellow actor of Franklin's. So, Mr. Harrison, how are you acquainted with Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Well, I was his next-door neighbor, obviously.
Don't get smart with me. Now, really, besides the fact that you live right next to him.
Well, most recently, I was actually auditioning for a movie with him.
Yeah? Which part?
The lead?
And did he beat you?
Yeah.
Were you good friends with him?
No, I hated that guy's guts.
Did you do it?
Yeah, I did it.
Why?
I was tired of him beating me at everything, thinking it was better than me.
Well, that's a sad story. Too bad the only ones that will hear it will be your cellmates. I went to the police chief to break the news.
Did you find out who it was, Jackson?
Yeah, it was Harrison.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Well, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. You're the best, Jackson.
I know, Chief.